Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Ballhawk, and these are your Sky Pillar Stadium Season 3 Lugia Division Power Rankings. A little bit of backstory to this. You're welcome, Lugia Division. I was able to corral SunSun, Boot, and myself last night to spend an hour and a half recording these PRs for you without actually hitting the record button. So this is our second time around the block, so you're welcome.
Tremendous L.
Yes.
May I point out?
Yeah, take the keys away.
Devastating L.
Take away the clef keys.
Take away the clef keys.
So on that note, I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
What's up? It's Boot making his YouTube debut. Yes,
and
sir.
I'm SunSun. Yeah, I'm SunSun back again for another PR.
And I'm Stanny. Hello. I'm here as well, apparently.
We were able to con StannyB back in for another video.
He wouldn't be here if we recorded yesterday, so
it just
we're
didn't
better
feel.
off for it.
It just didn't feel right without him,
Everything happens for the best.
It's all meant to be.
It was.
Exactly.
All right. With that, let's just hop right into it. Let's get these knocked out, huh? Starting off at number 16, we've got Sly. Sly's team consists of Zapdos Galar, Scizor, Clefable, Mega Charizard X, Galvantula, Dumb Eyes, Gligar, Drapion, and Deoxys Defense. I'm gonna hand it over to Boot first. What do you got?
So, looking at this team, right, there's a lot of very strong offensive mons that are supported well by Sticky Web. And you have the Galvantula there to, give you that fast web setter. But that's probably the biggest upside to this team is just its offensive presence, because there's a lot of flaws to this team, hence why it's at 16. First, I think the biggest problem with this team is its type synergy. It's extremely weak to a lot of common offensive types like fire, ice, flying, rock. It's super weak to ghost, and its only fairy resist is Scizor. And this gen, every fairy type pretty much got mystical fire, which would just destroy that thing. So just this whole team is very common to a lot of very, very weak to a lot of common offensive types, and it's super slow as well, with the fastest Pokemon being the web setter Galvantula. So if you're able to defog on this team, which shouldn't be too hard because a lot of common defoggers are very strong against these mons, being that the team's so weak to flying. It's going to be a big problem for this team, being able to keep the webs up for their offensive mons.
I think another thing this team is lacking is a water type. Right, one of the best typing in draft format is absent on this team. So not only do you not have good defensive one, you also lack a water type that could potentially deal with the opposing fire types. Because look who's killing the fire types on this. Basically, Dalmais and Galvantula, right? Sorry. No, they don't kill the fire types. There's nobody here to kill the fire type, except maybe Glide. So this team will struggle a lot in that regard. And it's also very physical, if you notice. So
Yeah.
a lot of walls can just run pure physical defense, ignore special defense, or even just aim for Skull Burns, Will-O-Wisp, because the Cleric is just Clefable, and when you have a physical offense team like this, it's very easy to just burn it, outspeed it, and just deal with it.
Yeah, the only real special breaker would be like a Life Orb Clefable, which isn't a great option, being that that's one of your few defensive pivots on this team. This team does have good momentum with 2 teleporters and 3 U-turners, and then Galvantula with the Volt Switch. But for the most part, strong offensive presence if the webs are up, and if you're not able to get those webs off, then I feel like you could struggle with this team. But otherwise, yeah, I feel like this team's going to struggle in this season.
How do you guys feel about special Mega Charizard X?
It's okay, but you're almost like forced to run it with this team because, like Boot said, the only special attacker is special sweeper would be Clefable, which is tough. Like Arcanine would intimidate like Soldier team, which is quite sad. I know what you do against Arcanine here. I guess you have Defiant Zapdos, which is great. Which is also good with webs for defog. I like that as well. And you have nice hazards, which is cool.
Mega Charizard would have to be dropping Dragos, and if you have the rocks up against this team, it'll just get chipped down super easy. So
Does it
And
even
especially
does it
with
actually get
Stardax.
Draco?
does it?
I don't think it
even
does
know.
because it's not a
Yeah,
natural.
because he's
No,
not
no.
naturally a dragon type. Without
Right,
it.
so I
Yeah,
don't think it can.
yeah, you don't drop
learn
flamethrowers.
flamethrowers and
Dragon
Dragon
Pulse.
Balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stuff.
No Dracos.
And no
Unfortunately.
ability either, because you're running a special set.
Right.
Yeah, that as well.
Might as well just stay in Blaze, right?
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
There's no rock and no flying resistance is really tough here. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
also really, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and you click any fire move. You can click any fire move against this team, and if they don't go hard Charizard, something dies. Usually, I mean, Deoxys is only so good as all-encompassing defensive pivot, and I mean this team's Ghost Resist is a Drapion, which gets the job done in certain instances, but overall it's not a great mon to rely on for a Ghost Resist when Deoxys is like the defensive backbone of the team.
Right. If you're relying on
Seems kinda
Drapion
good.
to be a defensive
Sorry.
backbone, I think that you're gonna get in trouble.
Oh, for sure.
It's even slightly weak to bar as well. Like, you got Delmice, that's it. Like, it's
Yeah.
also.
Bring your Will-O-Wisp and your ground attacks, pretty much. All right. We're going to move on to number 15 now. Coming in at 15, we've got Cress's Mean. His team has Urshifu, Single Strike, Excadrill, Latias, Tapu Bulu, Spectrier, Gigalith, Avalugg, Charizard, Mega Slowbro, and Zebstrika. What do you think about this team, SunSun?
So right off the bat, we got very solid offensive threats on this team. Urshifu is always going to break holes. And when you pair that with the Spectrier, what does Spectrier not like? It doesn't like dark types. It doesn't like normal types. Right? What's Urshifu good at? It's good at killing dark types and normal types. Perfect. Good synergy between those two. And we even got, we got Latias to support them even more. We can get off healing wishes or support them in status, just helping them break as well. Right? And then we got like a mini Sandcore over here with Gigalith Drill. It's all right, but you don't really need too much offense on this team, just given you already have Urshifu, you already have Spectre, you already have Tapu Bulu, right? You don't need more offense on top of that. And speaking of Tapu Bulu, Grassy Turning just straight up hinders Excadrill, right? You have to run High Horse Power instead of Earthquake. You have a chance to miss, it's weaker. I don't feel like Bulu does anything for this team. Anything else you want to add, Boo?
Yeah. I mean, as you said, like the offensive synergy for this team is very strong, but it lacks like Mega Bro is the only strong defensive pivot, and it can't run boots, right? So if you get the Mega off, it'll slowly get chipped and chipped and chipped. Yeah, like the offense is great, but I feel like it's lacking defensively, and the type synergy again is just not great. Like a ghost type would run through this team, with Urshifu being the only resist. And a ghost type, like an offensive ghost type, it's just like the flavor of Gen 8. You know what I mean? Like, and if this team faces one of those strong ghost types, it could just get run through. Yeah, like the team, there's no cleric support. The spinners, like the removal options, like are kind of non-existent. Like you have Rapid Spin Excadrill, which is probably the best, and then a Defog Charizard, but both of those mons are, weak to Edgequake, which is the common setters, like rock types and ground types and steel types usually have like that Edgequake coverage to hit those mons. So yeah.
I also want to add, this team has no access to knockoff. Right, none of these guys can knock off, which is arguably one of the best moves in the game. So, against opponents with Chansey, heavy duty boots, you don't have a way to get rid of them. They're staying on, and they're gonna make you work that much harder to get a kill.
I mean, another thing is like the speed tiers. There's a huge like gap between Tapu Bulu and Mega Slowbro, which is quite tough. It's a really big gap. Don't really
Yes,
like
Danny?
that at all.
Very big gap.
You don't like the
Yeah.
speed gap?
Get used to
I
it.
mean, I don't like it. I mean, oh god.
Yeah.
I mean, the fast mons are decently fast. You have like
Yeah,
130 Spectre, but once you get down there, like anything under 75 isn't going to be running any speed unless it's trying to like snipe a Adamant Bulu or something.
Yeah, it's tough.
I feel like Blue just kind of doesn't fit in with this team for some of the reasons that you mentioned with that,
Not at all.
hindering Excadrill, but like Charizard doesn't benefit from it at all either.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like if that was like a Wish Passer, like a, I don't know, something else.
Technically,
defensive
Latias
grass
does get
type.
Wish,
what's that?
but
Hmm?
Latias does
it?
get Wish, but
It does.
it's not a good Wish passer.
I feel like this team would have been a lot scarier if it had something like Whimsicott and then something else besides Zebstrika for that 115, 116 speed tier.
I agree with that for sure. Whimsicott is a lot better on sand, as with the same type coverage, but just with that prankster ability, it offers a lot more utility with a like a semi-sand offense like this.
For sure.
Something to consider if that mon is still around. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably isn't.
And it would also kind of round this team doesn't need any more offense than what it already has in Urshifu, Excadrill, Spectrier, Charizard. I would almost rather like see some form of Sun on this team just to kind of help Charizard shine a little bit more. But that's just me.
Speaking of Sun.
All right, moving on to number 14. We've got Jagged Panther. His team has Tapu Lele, Hawlucha, Ferrothorn, Vaporeon, Grimmsnarl, Duraludon, Mega Beedrill, Galurk, Torkoal, Heliolisk, and Mr. Mime Galar. What do you think about this team, Sun?
We mentioned Sun. There's a Torkoal here, but it's like the most random Torkoal that you're gonna see. Like it doesn't help this. There's no Sun. Nobody here benefits from Sun except for a Heliolisk, right? It just feels like a waste of a fire type team. Honestly. It's your one of your only rapid spinners outside of Mr. Mime, Galarian. So it's probably gonna have to come sometimes because you have to spin off for your Beedrill for Hawlucha. They're not gonna get rid of hazards, so you're stuck bringing a overpriced Torkoal without Sun. Another thing you want to look at about this team, it's that you got a Mega Beedrill, you got Tapu Lele, but you got nothing to kill Steel type, right? Nothing here can reliably remove Steel types except for Hawlucha. But Hawlucha shouldn't be coming in early, or else you're just wasting your Psychic or whatever seed you're running, right? But something good about this team is that you got very good hazard setters. Ferrothorn, Golurk, getting up rocks, getting up spikes, right? That helps Tapu Lele, it helps Mega Beedrill, and helps Hawlucha just break through to clean up the game. And eventually, we have other breakers on the other side, Duraludon, Golurk, Heliolisk. They have a much easier time just getting through the game. A little bit chip. Yep, Boot, anything else?
Yeah, I agree with that for the most part. In my personal opinion, I feel like this is the weakest draft. And that's just off the merit of the draft itself. Like maybe Jagged Panther, he'll prove me wrong. But I just feel like this team doesn't have great type synergy, and with this Torkoal, like the whole team is pretty weak to fire besides Vaporeon. And if you have like a strong fire move under the sun, like that's hitting Vaporeon pretty hard and chipping it down. And Vaporeon relies on wishing up and doing all that, and I don't know. It's just pretty easy to play around with that massive type weakness. Also weak to just ground types. Like this team is super weak to Edgequake. I just feel like it's a bit of an awkward build. There's just not great pivots. Like Duraludon's your steel type, and where are your fairy resists other than that? I mean, you have Ferrothorn, I guess, but everything, all the fairies get mystical fire to bop that thing. And then, I guess Mega Beedrill. That's a fair resist, but not really. Yeah, I just don't really understand the Torkoal pick. But yeah, it's just like the whole team's weak to hazards. Like if you get a spike up, this whole team's gonna get messed up because the spinners are Torkoal and Mr. Mime. Like I feel like against like a strong hazard team, they'd kind of be forced to bring like a default Hawlucha even, just because of how weak they are against like spikes and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think the fact that you have like almost forced to bring either Torkoal or Mr. Mime every single match, that's quite tough for removal. I think the speed tiers are all right, except for at the top maybe could have been something But it's quite tough with Beedrill. If it's something between there. Hazards are good. I really like what's it called? Beedrill. I actually like that one. All people don't like it. I really rate that one. I think it's really good, but that's just me. Yeah, I don't know.
I usually
Not much else to say about this team.
I'm sorry, go. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I'm
yeah, I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I usually knock these a little bit just because I have Duraludon, but you know, in between our attempt to record this last night and now, I've kind of come around on the idea of having Duraludon. Kind of for the reasons that Boot mentioned last night. 85 speed tier isn't, it's not bad, and if it's able to fire off a Draco or a Flash Cannon with 120 special attack base, I mean that's gonna dent some things. That's pretty versatile, but I hope Jagged actually keeps it and uses it and kind of gives me some ideas because I'm considering using it again at some point. It just looks cool. It's so good at VGC. I want it to shine in singles. All right. Moving on to number 13. We've got Red. Red's team consists of Mew, Mandibuzz, Mega Altaria, Darmanitan, Raikou, Empoleon, Blissey, Sandaconda, Mismagius, Virizion, and Dottler. Take it away, Boot.
So I thought this team was actually pretty solid. I ranked it like higher than 13. I ranked it 10. Because the team it has good rockers, and it has good removal. Like its options to control the hazard game is pretty strong. Being that you have Mew to potentially set up spikes, and if a team's weak to it, toxic spikes. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I just feel like this. That's kind of the biggest. Good thing about this team is its hazard control. It's super fat too, so that plus the hazard control is very strong. However, I just feel like this team's offensive presence isn't great. You have Darmanitan is kind of the only breaker, and maybe something like Mismagius if you run like a choice specs on it. But other than that, Mew's a setup sweeper, Raikou's a setup sweeper. Usually, I guess you could run a choice specs in matchups where you need a electric type to break, but I don't know. Usually, I just feel like this team doesn't have great offensive presence, and the offense would be pretty easy to prep for, other than that Mew, because that mon's broken. But yeah,
for sure.
Right. This team is very fat. Defensively, is really good, but not the type of defense I prefer. I like defensive mons that could actually provide more threat. Right. A lot of these mons, their threat level is very low. Let's see, Empoleon, Manibuzz, even down there you got Sandaconda. It's not the most threatening mon either. So this team is going to struggle a lot with walls. Speaking of walls, this team cannot kill defensive ground types. Darmanitan is walled. Raikou, you could Scald, but you're not taking Earthquake. Right. The only thing that can really deal with that is probably Virizion, and even then, you're not going to bring Virizion very often.
I mean, first off, I think Mew is amazing. I still think it's better than Pilt, in my opinion. I know it's a hot take, and I'm not going to leave that on, but it's fine.
I agree with you 100%.
But then, yeah, I like Mew. It's really good. But Mega Altaria is, in my opinion, the worst Mega in the game. I think it's one that's absolutely awful, especially as your only fairy, because you can just click a Dragon move against this team, and he doesn't switch in, because you don't have a fairy until you Mega Evolve it. So I really don't like that one. I absolutely hate it. Yeah. Rest is fine, though. It's a Doki team. Seems okay.
I could agree with that. Mega Altaria is pretty bad.
Yeah, I hate. Yeah. I can't stand them on. I think it's atrocious, but people like it.
It's got its strengths. It's definitely not going to be something that's going to carry your team. Though.
I'm glad we got you here for this one.
Yeah, I really don't like Atari. I don't know. I really dislike it. But...
Well, I think the sleeper on this team is Sandaconda.
Yeah, I feel like that thing isn't bad.
No, I
a decent defensive wall.
Yeah,
I used a lot of Sandaconda in the OU back when Sword and Shields first came out with Dynamax. It was actually really good. I put in a lot of work in my games. It was sick.
I like Sandaconda is awesome.
It's nice.
Yeah,
especially when Shedskin works.
Yeah, but
every game.
Unfortunately, Coil, yeah. Coil Shedskin. It's good.
Sure.
I like it.
All right. Coming in at number 12, we've got Thunderbug. Thunderbug has Mega Diancie, Infernape, Skarmory, Milotic, Dragonite, Celebi, Umbreon, Pelosan, Vikavolt, and Zangoose. What do you got for Thunderbug, son?
Well, I just want to ask you, Ballhawk, what do you think of Mega DNC Skarmory Melodic?
It looks pretty clean to me. I mean, looks pretty
Looks
familiar.
very similar to your roster, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Big thing about this team I don't like is speed tier caps at 110. And, you're going to get outsped by a lot of common mons. And you're going to be forced to run a Scarfer or just straight up lose a speed game, right? A lot of mons hit above that, especially in this gen. So, really something to watch out for. But what I do like about this team is Scar Melodic. Even got Umbreon Celebi back there. They're taking hits. They're not going to die anytime soon. They're going to have to bring like 20 breakers to get through this. But, they can also heal it back. All right, Skarmory got Roost. Melody got Recover. Celebi Recover. Umbreon got Wish. Palo Sensing got Shore Up. Right? This team's going to be very hard to break. But on the other spectrum, this team offensively, very lackluster. Right? You only basically got Mega DNC, Infernape, and Dragonite for offense. And Dragonite is not going to be... You're usually going to want to save that for last because you want to keep its multi-skill and you want it to set up DD. So most of the times, it stay in the back. So not many breakers, not many things to help, help get that KO. Another thing I want to note, the only mon that gets knockoff here is Zangoose. Obviously, Zangoose is not the most, it's not something you bring every week. So a lot of times, you're going to be stuck with items on the other side. Again, it's going to be that much harder to get the KO.
I agree with most of that. Yeah, this team has really good rockers. Just like, between Mega DNC, Infernape, Skarm, Palisand, and Celebi. Just like a lot of options depending on what the other team is and what their removal is. And yeah, as you were saying, like this team has fantastic defensive synergy. The good thing about the offensive mons is they're all versatile, right? Like Mega DNC can run a lot of different coverage. It can break and it could set up. Like it could break for itself and then sweep. Infernape can set up and also break depending on the set. And Dragonite can potentially run like a Choice Band set and break even as well. But yeah, the team's just super slow and there's barely really any momentum. You have Infernape with U-turn, but yeah, I just feel like this team's too stationary and if you have the right breakers, it could just fall apart super easily.
I mean, for me, I think the biggest issue is here that I've had this happen to myself a lot as well. When your high speed tier is 110, and the only one in your team that can really run Scarf is Infernape, it gets quite tough. Like, nothing else wants to run Scarf really, except for Infernape. So,
Yeah, exactly.
when I had Latios, my only one like with speed like that, and I had to bring a Scarf every week, it was really tough. I did not like it at all. But yeah.
110 is a pretty bad speed tier. Like in this current meta, 110 is not fast. It's super easy to outspeed with like most Scarfers. Like it's just not great. Vigavolt I feel like is a super underrated web setter. I feel like it's one of the best web setter.
Yeah, he almost fucked me with.
Yeah, that thing is just it's so fat and it has great coverage. It's like it's just fatter, slower Galvantula. But I think it's better in that sense because it's harder to prep for.
And it's immune to ground as well.
Opinion. Yeah, it's also immune to ground.
Yeah, yeah. So I tried to earthquake it in a week one matchup. It was tough, but that's.
You tried earthquaking this team.
Yeah, with Discord. Yeah, don't worry.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, I do rate Zangoose. Zangoose is actually good. It's decent. It hits really hard, and it gets quick attack, which is nice. And for solid close combat, it's really good. I like Zangoose. But,
yeah, Zangoose is a nice low tier offensive.
Yeah, I really like
tech. All right, we're gonna move on to number 11. Coming in at number 11, we got Qwerty's team consists of Latios, Celesteela, Buzzwole, Nidoqueen, Blastoise, Serena, Florges, Rotom, Kecleon, Sneasel, and Rapidash. Why don't you start us off, Boot?
So right off the bat, this team is just fat as shit. Like you have the Steela, you have the Buzzwole, and the Nidoqueen, and Matt, and then the Florges, however you pronounce that, to just pass massive wishes to the rest of the team. Just a really fat team. I feel like fat plus Latios is really good. I feel like Latios supports fat teams pretty well. because you're prepping for the fat, but then you could just lose to the Scarf or the Specs, the Combine Latios. The problem with this team is that the hazard setters are very bad. You have Nidoqueen and Kecleon, and that's it. And you don't Nidoqueen just is not the best rocker. Like, it doesn't get up rocks reliably because it gets chipped and it could just die. Like, you could trade rocks for the whole Nidoqueen if they bring the right coverage for it. Yeah, like this team has two fantastic spinners. So I mean, like, in pretty much every matchup, they're gonna have a spinner for it. Yeah, I feel like that's a big strength of this team, just like the fat and the spinners to keep the hazards off. But they don't really have a way of keeping the hazards on to force the switches with the fat. Yeah.
So if we look at the speed tiers of this team, the highest is at 115 with Sneasel. Not the most common one. You got Rapidash 105, right? And if we look a little bit down, you got 5 Mons in the base 70. That's a lot in that area. A lot of times, your opponents they're either gonna outspeed it or they're just gonna underspeed it. There's no point with everything else, right? 5 Mons in that region is just not ideal.
Yeah, this team probably has some of the worst speed tiers. You're right, for sure. Like, with Sneasel at 115, you're not going to bring that thing most weeks. And then you have Latios. And, like, Rapidash isn't very viable. Rotom is not, like, great. You're not going to want to bring that most weeks. And then you have Buzzwole. So, like, between Latios and Buzzwole, it's a 110 to a 79 base speed drop. Like, it's I don't know, not ideal for sure.
Yeah,
I agree. Go on.
Yeah, it just seems very passive. You look at it, a lot of these mons, they don't really offer much outside of what the basic things they do. Celesteela sits there, Blastoise sits there, Nidoqueen only gonna do so much. Same with Forgus, walled by every steel type. This team's gonna struggle a lot with breaking, especially when you have very poor hazard. So a lot of times you're gonna try to hit the opponent. You're gonna survive with just a little bit of HP because there's no extra chip damage from Stealth Rock. So this team will struggle with quite a lot.
I mean, I agree. I think the hazards are like the main issue here with this team, personally. But I don't really draft hazards like ever or removal. That's something I always abandon when I start drafting. I know it's the personal thing I do, but so I don't mind it as much. And I really rate Buzzwole, and I think it's a really good one. I think it's solid. It is quite soft that your only rock switch in is Nidoqueen, which is weak to grounds, and which rock does not get ground coverage. That's kind of could be hard. But yeah, I think it's an okay team. I don't mind it as much. It's fat, but yeah, it's all right.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I don't really have too much to add other than I love the Sneasel pick. Let's go. It is. I got it on my WPF team and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to number 10, we've got Sun himself. His team consists of Tapu Fini, Mega Aerodactyl, Crocodile, Jirachi, Hitmontop, Blacephalon, Ribombee, Lantern, Snorlax, Muck, and Meganium. What do you got for him? All right. Well, okay. So should we have Sun defend his team first before we rip him a new one, or should we let?
Let's have Stanny go first. I want to hear what he says without hearing
I mean, I drafted 2 of these mons last season, Aerodactyl and Fini.
That turned out pretty well.
That's a great core. Yeah.
Aerodactyl did absolutely nothing for me, though. That mon did absolutely nothing for me the entire season. I don't know if it's me, but the mon did not get a single kill the entire season, I'm pretty sure. Even though I drafted like every match. I mean, to be fair, every game, it hasn't even it didn't even come out on the field, and I killed the entire team already with Zero Aura. Usually, that's usually what happens. So it didn't even get a chance to do anything. It didn't die either. It didn't do anything. But yeah, I like Fini a lot. I like Jirachi a lot. I hate Blacephalon. I think that one is awful. But that's all right. You see, your removal is kind of sus. I get, yeah, it's quite sus. Which
the removal is really bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to I wouldn't want to defog on Fini, and Aerodactyl and Bombi definitely not. Hitmontop is solid, but not for every week. Yeah, that's I like it though. I don't think it's that bad.
I mean, there's super strong offensive synergy with the Feeny and the Arrow and the Crook, the Jirachi if it's running offensive set. I think Blacephalon in certain matchups could definitely be very scary, even though it's not the most reliable mon. Like, it doesn't fill a lot of roles. It just kind of does the same thing. The speed tiers are really good. You have Mega Arrow at like just being really fast, and then next down is Robombi, and then Blacephalon. Like, it's just very fast and good space in between the speeds. I feel like the whole team is supported well by the Misty terrain set by Feeny, and like I just feel like Feeny supports this team really well. I think the biggest weak point of this team is how insanely weak it is to Edgequake. Like, like the only ground resist is Mega Aerodactyl and Rabombi, and both of those things A are very frail, and B die to any rock move. So you bring a ground type with rock coverage and just tear through this whole team essentially. And I feel like the defensive pivots are really lacking. Like Feeny, I guess it could be a defensive mon in certain matchups, but I feel like in the draft format, a lot of the time it fits a more offensive role. And then you have things like Jirachi and Hitmontop. Just a lot of the defensive pivots aren't very reliable, and they're pretty easy to break. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all the points. But aspects of this team that I do like, when I draft, I'm very conscious of the speed tiers, which I don't think many of the Lugia coaches here are. But I try to maintain a good speed tier
Right.
in between. Something else good, you mentioned good offense, and there are 2 Intimidate users, so a lot of physical offense are going to get stopped by those 2. Yeah, it's decently weak to ground, and the hazard game's not that, or hazard removal game's not that great, but it's manageable with the pieces.
No, like I just want to clarify that I don't think Aerodactyl was bad or anything. I think it's a good mon. It just didn't do anything for me last season. But
Don't
it was
worry,
fine.
mine
No,
hasn't
just-
come up on the field yet.
Well, that thing is busted.
And just mentioning for people like just wanna make that clear. I think it's fine. Just didn't get to do much for me last season. But
seems
I
like
do
such
love.
a
I love
fun mon.
Snorlax. I love Snorlax. Is really good. I love that mon. I think it's better than any other normal type in the game. I mean, like around that speed. I think better than Blissey, better than Chansey, better than Porygon. I love Snorlax. And it's really good. It's carried me in the Uber season as well. I think it's such a good mon. I rate that a
Snorlax
lot.
is really good. Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, I love Snorlax.
Oh, I'm just excited for him to bring Meganium and flux that
Oh,
Gen
yeah.
2 grass
The ground
starter.
resist.
Yeah, there's your Edgequake answer.
Exactly.
3 swings, right?
I don't even know what that thing gets, honestly.
It's got screens. All right. Moving on to number 9, we've got Lunar. Lunar has Zygarde, Heatran, Rillaboom, Lycanroc, Dusk, Mantine, Reuniclus, Skuntank, Sceptile, Conkeldurr, Slurpuff, and Dusclops. You rank this team pretty high, son. What do you got for them?
Yeah, we got very different rankings for this one.
Very
And
polarizing.
one thing I want to note is that the team has very good synergy offensively, right? Or even defensively. You got Grassy Terrain and Heatran. You got Zygarde there as well. Grassy Terrain benefits a lot of these ones. Lycanroc, Heatran, Skuntank, and you even got Zygarde, who's out in Narrows, still the same power, right? And then look a little bit more to the right, Reuniclus, Conkeldurr. They support each other very well. Reuniclus does not like dark types, and Conkeldurr is there to just punch them away. Very solid offensive core, but when it comes to defense, this team is going to struggle a lot because who's really taking the hits, right? When you have Mantine, you got maybe defensive Heatran, Slurpuff. That's about it. Nobody else can really, sponge some hits. Even with the recovery from grassy terrain, you're still going to be chipped down, more or less, right? And this team is very weak to grass types and ice types if you take out Heatran. So Heatran, a lot of times, it's going to be in the defensive role, right? You're going to want to run the Def Heatran with rocks because Heatran is one of your few rock setters. So, you're going to be less equipped to deal with, the ice types, the grass types that are going to threaten this.
For sure. I feel like this team's offensive presence is super strong. But with its only rocker being Heatran and Lycanroc, like the roll compression for Heatran, like it's going to be forced to run rocks a lot of the weeks that it wants to, and that's really the only hazard setter this team has besides Slurpuff with webs. But it's a friggin' Slurpuff. Yeah, like the speed tiers are not great. You see like the Sceptile being fast, and with the Unburden, that thing can, I guess, potentially sweep. But like Lycanroc, this thing isn't coming every week, right? Then you have Lycanroc, which is 110. This thing is busted, in my opinion. I think Lycanroc is really good and really underrated, especially in like 10 or 11 mon, like this format. But then like the next fastest is Zygarde, and then like the team's just not very fast. Yeah, and another problem is there's no momentum to support these offensive mons. Like I think that's going to be a huge problem for this team. Like, and like with the lack of momentum, there's just like not really good switch-ins to a lot of Pokemon. Like there's a big ice resist and big flying resist, and your only fairy resist is Heatran. So yeah, I just feel like there's not great defensive synergy on this team, and a lot of the defensive mons I feel like are pretty easy to handle. And with the lack of momentum, I feel like this team's going to rely a lot on sacking and trading. So I feel like if you play the sack game against this team, it'll be pretty easy to beat. But you can potentially just get run over by something like Lycanroc or Rillaboom if you're not well equipped to deal with that, or even like a setup Reuniclus. Conkeldurr is super strong as well. I feel like that's a good pick on this team because it is fat. Like it's a really good bulky offensive mon, but nothing really fills a really strong like niche as like the defensive wall besides something like Mantine, which isn't like a great mon.
I feel like that Conkeldurr pick at the end was very unnecessary. I feel like those first 4 picks, like that's like the peak of synergy almost. Like I think he hit the nail right on the head with those first 4 picks. Conkeldurr just seems a little over the top to me. It almost puts it in borderline HO in my opinion.
I think you could have definitely supported your offense with better defense with the last 6 picks. I like the Reuniclus pick. The Mantine pick is I don't really like that mon, but I guess it's okay for the role it fills. But I just feel like a lot of these mons are just kind of were out of place in the sense where they were just trying to fill like a type synergy instead of really like covering its weaknesses.
Yeah, I think you definitely need Reuniclus here. It's like it's one of your main like special sweepers. Besides like Heatran, but that like all of you mentioned, it should be like defense most of the weeks, like the grass and the ice weaknesses that this team has. I do love Heatran, Reuniclus, and Conkeldurr Go. Those are like 3 of my favorite mons in draft ever. I think that all 3 of them are super good and super undervalued by everyone I've ever seen. It's my all-time kill leader, Reuniclus. I think it's one of the best mons in draft. I think it's so good. Yeah, the removal, I mean, the hazards are not the best. Momentum is not the greatest, but it's okay. I like it.
All right. Moving on to number 8, we've got.
I do also like the. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I do also like the trick room mode you do have though with Dusclops and Reuniclus for the Conkeldurr. I do like that. One thing on that.
Sure.
It could be potentially scary.
Yeah.
I think I saw them running was that this team that ran Sticky Webs and Trick Room? Yeah.
They don't have bats. Oh yeah, they do have bats. Yeah, they do. Oh yeah, it's purple. Yeah,
You're not really underslowing the Uniclus, so
that's true.
It's manageable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on to number 8. We've got Geek Yogurt showing up with Mega Gallade, Weavile, Swampert, Chandelure, Togekiss, Miltank, Kartana, Noivern, Electivire, Regirock, and Ariados. Start us off, SunSun.
Right off the bat, see, this is hyper offensive, right? You have basically only breakers here, not too many defensive threats. It's just you hit the other really, really hard. But as with all HO, this team is gonna struggle a lot with opposing setup. Team doesn't even have good hazards to really benefit off of that. Like, yeah, you got area adults back there, but you're not bringing that most of the time. You got Miltank and Swamper. They're all right, but it could be better. Another thing about this HO is that there's no setup, right? You got Sword Sense from Gallade and Weavile, but that's about it. Nobody's really boosting your speed unless you run minus attack nature, 19 attack, Ivy, Kartana, but that's not a real. Very mobile. No, not much momentum. So if a mon's in, it's staying in. It's kind of hard to pivot out. So a lot of times they're going to be taking hits, and you know what this team's not good at? It's taking hits because nobody's really defensive. With repeated blows, the team's going to struggle. But if the team gets the first hit, if it gets first action, then probably going to overwhelm the opposition.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I feel like, yeah, this team has good rockers with Pert and Regirock, but I feel like on an offensive team like this, you need a spike setter. Like there's just like all these super potent breakers. You have Lade and Weavile and Chandelure and Kartana that could all just really break through a team with a spike setup. And I feel like that's a big weakness that this team has is not having spikes for the HO support. This team has really good momentum between Electivire, Volt switching, Noivern U-turning, and then like a flip turn Pert. I feel like that's all the momentum you need when you have all these breakers. But yeah, there's just like big defensive holes in this team. Super weak to Edgequake again. You have Noivern and Togekiss as your Earthquake switch-ins, but those things will just get bopped by any strong rock move. So yeah, I feel like that's a big problem for this team. Something I took advantage of when I played him. But yeah, good speed tiers. Overall, I think this team is good, but just kind of lacks the defensive utility that it would need to, really support the breakers well.
Yeah. I personally love this team. I love offensive teams, hyper offensive. It's what I like to play. I think it's really fun to play. The only thing I don't understand is why you have Noivern and Electrifier. I think you could drop those ones for low tier defensive, like lower value defensive ones, and the team would be really good. That's what I wanted last season, at least something like that. Just low tier, low points defensive ones. I really like that. For the rest, yeah, I don't think there's much else to add. It's very offensive. It's very weak defensively.
For sure. Yeah. I don't have anything else to add either. Move right along. Coming in at number 7, we've got Majora. Majora has Mega Mawile, Slowbro, Rotom Heat, Silvally, Zarude, Azelf, Licky Licky, Runerigus, and Como-O. Another polarizing team. Why don't you explain to us why you like this team so much, Boot?
Right off the bat, Mega Mawile plus Slowbro plus Rotom Heat is just a broken core. Like I don't know why we let him get this, but I don't know. This core is just really good. Just I don't know. I feel like I might be overrating it. Maybe that's what I put it for, just because I feel like this core is so good. Because this team does have its weaknesses. But the strengths, I mean, I feel like this team, while it's only 9 mons, it has good type synergy, and like the offensive options like are just so hard to deal with. You have like Slowbro and Rotom to really eat up the willows that something like Mega Mawile and Zarude don't want to take. Like I just feel like defensively, it's going to be really hard to prep for this team. Like this team is going to like potentially just run through you with Mega Mawile just being as broken as it is. It is a really slow team. I feel like that's its biggest problem is how slow it is. Like, and you have Rotom Heat, which could be a decent choice scarf monitors are rude, but no really strong scarfers that want to run scarf every week. And like also just I don't know, mediocre removal for something like I don't know, like with the removal being so bad, you can't really even bring Scarf Rotom because it'll get chipped by rocks so much. And Defog Silvally just isn't great because it's weak to rocks and you can't run boots on it unless you run the normal Silvally. Yeah, I think it's a really good team, but Just especially offensively, it's super strong, but it does have its weaknesses for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned bad defoggers team, so hazard stacking is going to be really good against this team. Most of these guys are grounded as well, so it's going to get chipped down really easily. Something else about this team I don't like is that it's very passive. A lot of these guys, you know, Savali, Stolbro, Licky, Runerigas, Como, if it's running South Rock, they're usually not gonna contribute too much in terms of damage, and more so they're gonna be the defense and without ways to really hit the other guy. So you can take advantage of that and just throw your hits in, get your momentum, predict around. Right. Something else to note is that it seems very weak to Scald. Right. Mawile, Rotom, Zaru doesn't want to get burned unless it runs jungle healing. A lot of these guys, if they get Scald burned or get hit by Scald, their longevity is basically limited. Right. Danny, anything else you want to add?
I mean, I do like this team as well. I think Mega Mawile Slipper is a really good score. Even though I'm personally not a big fan of Mawile, it's a good mon. It's solid. Meat is really good with that as well, of course. I think the team's a bit slow. On the slow side, the Everself and the Roots, and that's about it. It's like really fast. And then, of course, you have the Trick Pro modes with Mawile and Slowbro, but it's like the only one you really want to run on the Trick Room is Mawile, which is okay, but yeah. It's a lot of like middling speed tiers between like 50. I mean, not. Yeah, we have 50, 30, 80s. But I like the team though. It's a solid team.
Yeah, anytime you got Slowbro, Mega Mawile, you're gonna, things are gonna die.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
For sure. All right, moving on to number 6, we've got Nathan. Nathan has Zero Aura, Corviknight, Mega Gardevoir, Kyurem, Tangrowth, Alomomola, Nihilego, Spirit Tomb, Sandslash, and Passimian. Start us off, Boop.
So yeah, this is another team that I thought was super strong as well. I ranked this 3, I think, just because of how fantastic the offensive synergy is between Zero Aura, Gardevoir, and Kyurem. Like these 3 mons are just insanely versatile and strong mons. Like all 3 of these could be breakers or setup sweepers. Like just Zero Aura could be a fantastic pivot, or it could bulk up and just kill everything. Gardevoir can calm mind, or it could just hit your team, and then Kyurem could run its Kyurem things with like sub or DD or specs. It's just one of those teams. Like if you look through all the other teams, and I feel like this is why I rank this team a bit higher, is that like a lot of the teams in this division are super weak to ice types, and I feel like Kyurem will just put in a lot of work against those ice weak teams. Even this team's weak to ice, so I guess he's lucky that he grabbed the Kyurem himself. A lot of his options are really versatile with like Corviknight as well, and as I said, the offensive options and whatnot. And I feel like the biggest flaw of this team is its hazard setters being only Nihilego, essentially. Like Nihilego's the only rocker, and then you have Sandslash, which can set up rocks and spikes. And Sandslash is very bad in my opinion, so you're not going to really be bringing that. Yeah, just a really strong offensive team. But I feel like without those hazards, it won't benefit from its strong offenses as much.
Yeah, you mentioned bad hazards, but the removal is just as bad, right? You have Sandslash and you have Corviknight. So Corviknight most of the time is going to be roll locked into being the defog team. Nobody else is removing hazards, so you're going to be stuck with defog, roost, right? You have 2 moves left, so can't really make use of the offensive Corviknight, the bulk of the agility, power trip, those kind of Corviknight sets. You're going to be stuck running defog all the time. Something else to know about this team: the dark type is Spirit Tomb. So there's no there's no ghost resist, and dark resist is Passimian, right? Because your fairy type is also weak to dark, neutral to dark. So not very many knockoff switches, and it's gonna get run over by offensive ghosts very easy.
Yeah, this team is extremely weak to fairy too. with Passimian really being the only resist. I mean, if you have a physical fairy move, Nihilego gets hit really hard with that with its super bad Fizz Def. So yeah, Corviknight. I mean, I feel like it's just like a lot of reliance on Corviknight as the main defensive mon for a lot of this team's type weakness, and which it just isn't great because Corviknight kind of falls apart under that kind of pressure, just in the draft format when it's pretty easily prepped for. But yeah.
I mean, I do actually rate Sandslash. I think it's really good. I like that one. I've used it before, and I think it's okay. As a low tier, low points ground type. I do like this team. The main thing is, of course, the ghosts. Yeah, the ghost types are a big problem. They're very scary. And of course, the speed tier between Zero Aura and Nihilego is not the best. I think a lot of mons can run like modest elements in that 120, 125 speed tier, which there are plenty of. That's very optimal. You don't want that. Besides that, I love Zero Aura, I love Gardevoir, I love Kyurem. I think they're all very solid mons, so it's good. I like it.
I mean, something like a Spectre can run modest against this team and destroy it. Absolutely just massacre everything. Yeah.
Spectre is, you don't want to play that with the team. Yikes.
For sure.
Definitely not.
At least it's only on one team.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, moving on to number five. We've got Bagel John. Bagel John is dishing the stall to some extent. He's got Garchomp, Aegislash, Sylveon, Mega Venusaur, Talonflame, Starmie, Pangoro, Jolteon, Porygon 2, and Vespiquen. What do you think about this team, Boot?
Well, I wouldn't call it stall necessarily. It's definitely a very defensive balance type of build. It's really fat. You got the Sylveon and the Mega Venu. Like, that core is really strong with the Aegislash as well. Like, those three mons, I feel like, is the core that this team will really thrive with the most. Garchomp is a fantastic breaker. And, for a defensive team, this team has really good speed tiers, oddly enough. I mean, Jolteon and Talonflame and Starmie, are all pretty fast. I think the biggest weakness for a team this fat is its hazard control is really bad. Really bad. You have Garchomp as the only rocker, and that's, the only hazard, other than Vespiquen, which is never coming once, because that thing is terrible. You have no hazard setters besides Garchomp, which is there's not a lot of strong offense on this team, and forcing Garchomp to run rocks, I just feel like is not ideal at all. And your removal is Talonflame, Starmie, and then that Vespiquen again. I mean, your removal isn't great as well. And I just feel like you could dominate this team with hazards and slowly chip it down. And with Aegislash and Mega Venusaur having just synthesis, you could stall those out easily. Aegislash doesn't have recovery, and they're all relying on Sylveon to Wish Pass. But if you have Spikes up or in Stealth Rock, you're gonna have Boots Sylveon probably against a hazard heavy team, just because this team's so weak to it.
Yeah, and I was prepping for this team week 1, and something I noticed is Mega Aerodactyl goes in versus the team. Lots of flying weak mons. Only resists Aegislash, and you just EQ that thing instead. Right? A lot of times, prepping for this team is going to be exploiting the common defensive weakness. Because Mega Venusaur, it resists a lot of the types, but you can, if you chip it down enough, it's still going to be worn down really quickly. Something else to know is it's very passive, right? As with most defensive teams, it's passive and it's immobile. So pivoting, a lot of chip damage, it makes it seem a lot easier to deal with, right? Something else to know, well, it's very bulky. If you switch in your Venusaur to a Pyro Ball before you Mega Evolve, it's just going to die in one hit, right? You're going to lose your big wall.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that to happen, would you?
Definitely not.
This thing is also very weak to ground, right? As you see, Talonflame, Vespiquen, those are only 2 flyers. And as Boot likes to say, this team is very weak to Edgequake.
Yes.
So the Talonflame,
Horribly weak to Edgequake. Yeah.
if ever gets knocked off, if rocks are ever up, you're taking 50 on switching. Not ideal.
Or if you just, throw a pebble at it, it'll die as well.
Like I mentioned, Eric Excellence, I played this team as well, week 2, and I had a Gliscor, and this team does not like Gliscor at all. Like, and Gliscor just went in against it, he couldn't do much against it once Starmie was gone. Like, there was nothing he could do to stop Gliscor. Which, another thing I don't like about this team is, after guard jump, your fastest mon is Mega Venusaur, which usually won't run speed, I hope. I mean, it could, but... And then basically you have Aegislash at 60, which can run speed, but it's still a huge gap then between like guard jump and Aegislash. I think it's
they're basically 4 monsters at base 60. You got Pangoro at 58, just being the imposter.
Yeah.
It's all 60s right there.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think like... definitely. And of course, it has a strong off the best, but yeah.
I do think this team is strong, though. Like, I think
yeah, sure.
I feel like a lot of teams will struggle breaking this defensive core.
Well, for sure. And this team is automatically one of the best teams in the division just because it's got the GOAT Talonflame.
All right, of course.
Of course.
A little biased, but it's okay.
All right, moving on to number 4, we've got Hacker. Hacker was able to compile Tornadius Therian, Victini, Melmetal, Nidoking, Suicune, Obstagoon, Trotagon, Girder, Raichu, Crustle, and Leafeon. Take it away, SunSun.
So right off the bat, this team weak to Edgequake, right? The ground resist, Leafeon. Let's not Leafeon for now. The ground resist after that, the only immunity is Torn, right? So it's very easy to just spam Earthquake against the team. And they're all basically grounded. And in that regard, T-Spikes, very effective team. Especially when you have, Suicune, when you have Victini. They get chipped very easily. So ideally, if you can get the hazards up against the team, they're probably going to stay as well. Because the defaulter is Torn T, Girder. Girder's probably not coming in most of the games. And Torn T, a lot of times, it doesn't have good opportunity to actually get off a default. Because you don't want to pivot more often. It's running boots itself, so times it probably will be just using attacks. Speaking of which, this team is very weak to knock off. Right? If you knock off Torrent's boots, it's actually going to get chipped easily. Victini, Nidoking, Suicune, knock off their items, they're going to be worn down much quicker. Even Melmetal, take off the AV or leftovers, and its survivability is just so much less.
Yeah. I just feel like, I agree with all that, but the team's offensive synergy is fantastic. Just like Tornadus being a very strong offensive mon, in certain matchups like Victini with V-Create can just bop a lot of these fire weak teams. You have Melmetal doing Melmetal things, and the Nidoking, which is one of the, in my opinion, best breakers in the draft format, and Obstagoon as well. Like, I just feel like it is a great ghost resist and normal type because it has like great offensive presence and can run some pretty cool utility too with its switcheroo sets and parting shot and all that. Just great synergy with the Tornadus Therian as well. But the hazard options aren't great. And the removal, Tornadus is your only removal, so you might not be able to utilize its strong offenses in a lot of matchups. You do have Girder, but I don't know how often he's going to be running the default Girder. And just not great recovery across the board. Actually, like pretty bad recovery. Looking at it, because Tornadus has regen, but doesn't actually have like a recovery move, and nothing else like really recovers. So I feel like you're going to be forced to run a rest a lot of the times on these mons. A bit of a problem.
You got wish support from Leafeon. That's something.
That is
I don't know. It's great. I do like this team though. I think it's really good. I like every mon on this team except for Raichu and Suicune. So I think it's pretty good. I think Raichu is absolutely horrible. I used it once in Trick House, and I did not bring in a single week because it's really bad. I don't like Suicune. I think it loses to Taunt. I don't know. It doesn't do anything after that. I don't like that one at all. But besides that, I think this team is super solid. I really like it actually. I love all of the ones in this team. Yeah, I think it's good. Except for, of course, the ground weakness and the hazards are like obviously, yeah.
Oh yeah, the ground weakness is
Yeah.
horrible. Like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
horrible edge quick weakness. It's just like, yeah, this team is gonna really struggle against any mon with Earthquake and Stone Edge. Just gonna run through this for sure.
It's also quite a big speed gap over there between 48 and 85.
That's
Oh,
true.
wait,
Yeah.
right.
Very big.
And there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of clumped up speed tiers, with like Obstagoon and Leafeon. Well, it's a Leafeon, but
We'll ignore Leafeon.
Yeah, we can ignore Leafeon, but yeah,
Sure.
just a bit clumped up in the 85 to 100 range. But you have Torrent, which is fast, and then Victini, which is the second fastest. Just not great speed tiers in terms of like having a fast Pokemon, and I feel like what wants to run a Scarf, like Victini, I guess, and that's it. So you don't really have coverage for the speed tiers that you struggle against.
All right.
Yeah.
Solid team. Moving up to number 3, we've got Boot himself. I think I'll read the team out first. We got Mega Scizor, Zapdos, Greninja, Mamoswine, Slowking, Weezing Galar, Terrakion, Gourgeist, Wigglytuff, Flareon, and Vullaby. I say we let Boot defend his team first.
No, we'll let Stanny go again first.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys destroy me first. And
Let's
then
stay
I'll,
consistent.
Just the one to say, I rate the Flareon. I think Flareon is really good for its value. It's actually quite built, especially defensive. I think it's a nice one, and it also hits really hard. That one really hurts.
It's a really good
Slow.
rush passer. Yeah.
It's a low XP stat, but yeah. And of course, Scizor, Zapdos. When I first saw you drafted, I thought you'd go, Rain. Seemed obvious there, but you did not. And you know what? I like it. I like the outcome of it. I think it's solid. Like most of these ones here, it's good. We got good hazard, good removal. Speed tiers are fine. I think all of it seems pretty good. I like it.
You say he's got good hazard. Terrakion and Mamoswine, not
Yeah,
very...
but maybe not rocks, but he has T spikes on 2 months. He has spikes on Greninja. Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, spikes and T-spikes, they're fine. Rocks, not so right.
Yeah, sure.
And the momentum on this team is really good. You got U-turn, you got Volt Switch, you got Teleport. They're going in and they're coming out into Mamoswine and Terrakion, and those guys, they're gonna kill you, right? They're gonna throw off crazy strong edge quakes between the two of them, and they're just gonna kill your entire team. Right. One more thing I want to add is that defensively, you got some good pieces too. Slowking, solid defensive wall. Weezing Galar, no recovery, but it's still going to be able to take a hit or two if we run defensive Zapdos or
Gourgeist.
defensive big Gourgeist, Wigglytuff. They can tank hits. And even offensively, very, very strong. As
Hey,
I
don't
mentioned,
forget about Vullaby down there.
Volby, best defogger on this team, probably by a mile.
Probably.
Sure.
But what I don't like about this team is very one-dimensional. You know exactly what most of these guys are gonna do, right? Scizor basically does one thing only. Mounts on Terrakion, they just throw off hits, right? Slowking is mostly just gonna be a wall. Greninja, it's either gonna be physical, special, or it's gonna set up hazard. That's probably the biggest mystery that you have. Everybody else, pretty predictable. Another thing, it's mostly physical off, right? Scizor, Mamoswine, Terrakion. Your special offense consists of the 2 water types and maybe Zapdos. And Zapdos isn't even going to be a... Right? But, I think these pieces, they fit each other well. I think this team looks really good on paper and probably going to get good results. That's why I put it at number 1. So, Boot, what would you like to say?
I do think this team's strong. I don't think it's one of the stronger teams in the league. SunSun did put me 1, but I put myself 7. Maybe I'm underrating the team a bit because just building with it, there are some flaws, but yeah, just great momentum and pivots into the breakers. Like I don't know, I wanted to have fun this league, and I was thinking of drafting Rain, but I just decided not to. I just thought I want to click uh, choice banded close combats with my Terrakion and strong like earthquakes and all that. Yeah, just I think this team's really strong. Just not like great defensive options, but I think it's good overall.
And we'll be right back with.
What's that?
We can. Well, just skip Boo for now, and let's just hear. Let's go on next one.
All right, all right. Coming in at number 2, we've got Ghost. Ghost has Dragapult, Mega Lopunny, Landorus Therian, Bronzong, Rotom Wash, Aromatisse, Shaman, Muckalola, Colossal, and Smeargle. Normally I'd hand
Let's
it
hear
off to Boo.
Stan.
Yeah, let's go to Stanny.
Oh, sure. I mean, his first 3 months are that's such a good first 3 picks. I think that's super solid. You got great momentum with that. You got great breakers, great offense, nice defensive pivot with Lando. Rowan Wash also super solid. All these are pretty great. I don't know how I feel about the removal though, but because Lando and Roto, I mean they're good, right? But I wouldn't want to bring them remove either of them every week. One of them, I don't really like that too much. But the offensive core is still solid, and even the momentum, it's really good. There's not much, yeah.
Yeah, the Dragapult Lop core is insanely strong.
Yeah, for sure.
Just I think I put this team at 2. I think any team with Dragapult is usually automatically top 3. That thing is broken. Just like the offensive synergy between Dragapult, Megalop, Torn or Lando, I mean, and Rotom is very strong, and he has great defensive pivots as well with the Bronzong and the Rotom and the Muck. I feel like a big problem with this team is that it'll get chipped easily, and to rely on Aromatisse as your wish passer for that, I mean, when that thing loses to every steel type in the game, yeah, it'll be a bit of a problem. I definitely took advantage of that when playing this team, chipping the team down and just kind of sweeping it at the end. But yeah, I think this team offensively is just super strong, and if you can't deal with Dragapult and Megalop, which a lot of teams won't be able to, you're going to struggle for sure.
Yeah, and looking at this team, I feel like Smeargle, it's so out of place. Right? It doesn't do anything on this team. Sure, it gets up the hazards, but you're probably going to defog them away anyway because of how hazard weak your team is. Oftentimes, Smeargle just feels like such a. It's not going to come time. And another thing about this is that this team is very weak to status, right? Scald, Toxic, Rotom, Lando. Their survivability are so limited after that, especially when they're getting chipped all the time. They have to switch into all the attacks, right? Yeah, you have Kyobel from Tease, but even then, still gotta. It's gonna be very limited, so you're gonna have to make use of all. Something else to note is the speed gap, right? From 100 to 135, that's a really, really crucial speed gap that you can't just ignore, right? All the 120s, all the 110s, all the 130s, they're gonna exploit that speed gap so much that you might not have the answer to deal with.
Yeah, that is a problem for sure. But I feel like it's patched up decently, considering that he has the Lando and the Rotom, which are 2 fantastic Scarfers. So I feel like it patches up that speed tier problem a bit. But yeah, just those mons that are around the 120 range could just run modest against this team and could be a problem. Like something like just looking at it like a Cinderace could be a problem for this team. Just
I think
mons
it's
around that speed tier.
I think it's like first 5 months. American made like top 3 in like the power rankings. Like just first 5 months are like so strong together. I think it's so good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really strong team. Super hard to deal with it, in my opinion. Like prepping for it was extremely hard. I got lucky. I crit his Rotom turn 1, and it made my life very easy. But yeah, I think it's a really good team, and Ghost is a good player as well. So
For sure.
Mhm.
All right. Moving on to the top squad. StannyB himself. There's a reason why we had him join us tonight. So how do we want to handle this? How do we want to handle this? You boys both ranked him pretty high. Do we let him start off, or?
Let's look at the speed tiers first, shall we?
yeah,
The Reggie Steele and Gliscor.
bit of a gap there. This team is insane, in my opinion. I think it's for sure the best team in the league, hands down. I mean, just the first 4 months, you have Glispex, and then you have Coco Medi. Like, I don't know, like any team with these 4 is automatically going to be great. And I feel like just offensively, you have insane breakers. You have Cinderace, Hydreigon, and just like really versatile offensive options. And the speed tiers, while there is a gap in the lower speed tiers around like the 50 to 80, like the higher speed tiers, I mean, a lot of these things are really fast. And like Hydreigon and Cinderace and Coco all don't mind running a Scarf in certain matchups. I think the biggest problem with this team is its hazard control. Considering that like you might compress the role of, say, Gliscor to run Defog, or say force Hydreigon to run a Defog, or and Registeel, I mean, is you're going to be running rocks on Registeel anytime you bring it. Just because you don't want to run rocks on Gliscor, you want to do something else with it. But other than that, I mean, like this team is just super strong, and I do not want to prep for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but something else I want to add. Seem quite weak to Bolt Beam, right? It's not helped getting the electric terrain boost from Coco. So, Bolt Beam hits everything, and when you have hazards up, probably gonna chip a lot of these defensive threats even more. So that's probably the best way to break through this as well. And this team is also potentially weak to ground types, right? Outside of the immunities, these guys are all really weak to ground. So something to exploit, perhaps both teams.
Yeah,
All right,
I
Stanny,
mean,
what you got for us?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Gliscor is a pretty solid edge quick answer, depending on how strong
Well,
those rock
for
moves
sure.
are.
But
Yeah.
if we get rid of Gliscor,
Oh, yeah.
potentially
Then
ground types.
it's a problem for sure.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, this team is very top heavy. I think I can say at least. I got a lot of good ones, and then I got some interesting picks.
You don't like Cardamom?
I kind of like Cardamom. I kind of like Cardamom actually. It gets knockoff, it gets defog. It's not the worst. It gets some cool moves.
Yeah, that's good utility. I was looking at it because I don't see a lot of Carnivine. I like the Frostlass pick, honestly. I think that thing could be pretty solid with like freeze dry and stuff against ice weak teams.
And it can run either physical or special with like triple axle on you guys now too.
You can go utility as well. I think it's really good. I mean, I just took basically the best monster available and I put them together in a team, and that's what ended up. Like, I know my removal is bad, my hazards are not the best, but it tends to be a trend team I draft. Like, it's not a new thing for me personally. Like, it happens basically all the time. Usually just end up throwing a lot of scary good monsters together, and that's my team, and it usually works out for me. So.
I mean, the core of the first 4 months is just so strong. Like, I remember like seeing this core in OU, like Gen 7.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I remember seeing this core quite a lot, actually.
You can probably put Hydreigon on there too.
Oh yeah. And then just like time travel with the Cinderace. It looks like a Gen 7 OU team for sure. Especially those first 4. But yeah, I think this team is really strong. Just like a lot of prep demons, especially. Like, I don't know how teams are like gonna consistently break Gliscor and Toxapex.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Congrats to Stanny for taking the top spot in the Lugia Division post-draft PRs. That'll do it for this session. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Yes,
Peace.
sir.